You know what I think with that song? I think that song's a litmus test. If you knew that song before you came in today, you were either a youth or a young adult. If you didn't know that song, if you didn't know that song, you are like me and you have a fully fledged, full adult card in the back pocket. Us mature people, eh, Jenny? Yeah. But hey, I just ask us the question that the song brings up is this: did you check on me? Did you look for me? Did you check on me? Did you look for me? We are a people that want others to check on us. Or I think the way we could say it is, did you care for me? We're a society that wants people to care for us, and we're often asking the question, hey, who cares for me? Who's checking on me? This song it's about someone who's obviously, pulled back from society a little bit, been drinking a little bit more, or maybe a lot more than they should, thought that some of her friends might have actually come and checked on her when looking for her. And we can feel that tension in us. Did you check on me? Who cares for me? But what I want to do is I want to put a challenge to you. Rather than asking the question, who checked on me? Wouldn't it be better if we asked the question, who am I checking on? And instead of asking the question, who cares for me? What if we ask the question, who am I caring for? Because we all want to be cared for. But the question is, how well are we doing at caring for others? And you think of any community, and here at Lifestyle, we're a community of people. But this applies whether it's in a workplace setting or a team or a school. Whenever there's a group of people, there's a certain level of care that people receive. And I've just drawn the circle of care on the screen here. And this circle of care is made up of a whole lot of little rocks or dots or whatever we want to call them. And each one of those represents a person in that community. So if everyone in this room is one of these little rocks up there, there's some people in here that are like, yeah, I'm one of those big ones. I feel really cared for. And there'll be other people that are more like one of these tiny little dots, the little pebbles, and they say, man, I don't really feel that cared for. But if we were to say, hey, there's a size of a circle that sums up the amount of care that we receive as a community of people here. And if we go to the next slide, I've just made it a bit smaller so I can fit all this in. But what's interesting and what we have to understand and know is that the level of care received within a community is always going to be equal to the level of care provided by that community. You can't have a community that feels this cared for when there's only this much care going on. And you're never going to have a community that feels that cared for when there's a huge amount of care going on. That as a community, the total amount of care that's received is going to correlate with the amount of care that's given. And if we're going to be the community that we are called to be, we've got to ask ourselves the question, not am I being cared for, but am I caring for those that are around me? And in the New Testament is really, really clear on how we're meant to care for one another. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to take you through a whole lot of passages. I'm going to read out a whole lot of passages really, really quickly. And just to reinforce, and again, some of you that you've been around church, you've heard these passages over and over again. Some of you, if you've never been in church before, you're like, oh yeah, I kind of probably knew this about a church, that it should be a place where I feel cared for. Let's just go through them. We're going to jump a whole lot of the different letters in the New Testament. This is what it says in Romans. Be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourself. Galatians. You, my brothers and sisters, were called to be free, but do not use your freedom to indulge the flesh. Rather, use your freedom to serve one another humbly in love. Carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. Therefore, as we have opportunity, let us do good to all people, especially to those who belong to the family of believers. And to Ephesians, be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, and this is just as Christ forgave you. Anyone else find it hard to forgive people sometimes, because while we're given that kicker, you have been forgiven. Philippians, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of others. Colossians, therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourself with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. 1 Thessalonians, may the Lord make your love increase and overflow for each other and for everyone else, just as ours does for you. Therefore, encourage one another, build each other up, just as you are in fact doing. Hebrews, and let us consider how we may spur one another on towards love and good deeds. Now that you have purified yourselves by obeying the truth, so that you have sincere love for each other, love one another deeply from the heart. We'll go last one. Offer hospitality to one another without grumbling. Whew. That's pretty clear, right? When it comes to this idea that we're called to love one another, we don't have a clarity problem. It is so simple. Rather, we have got an application problem. And I'm not talking about us necessarily, but as the church, as Christians as a whole. When it comes to this idea that we're called to love one another, we kind of know that, right? You've never have had to read the Bible before. You'd read just what I've read to you, and you're like, that's pretty simple, Clint. That's easy. That's so clear. If there's a test on what we need to do, love one another, care for one another, you'll all pass that test. But the application of it is where we have the problem. The application is where it gets hard. And so what I'm going to do today is just a little bit different. Rather than taking you through a passage to help you understand what that passage is saying and to illuminate some stuff and draw some tension and have some fun with it, well, I don't even need to do it because it is so clear. You're intelligent people. Well, what I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to share a few challenges that we face around the applicational side of this, around why the application can be difficult. I'm going to then throw out a few sort of action things that we can all go and do. And then as we wrap up, I'm going to ask us just to take a moment and dream together. Because I think it's so clear what we need is a bit more potentially, and some of you are doing this so well, you're like, yeah, this is easy. But a lot of us, we need inspiration on the application side. So I'm hoping, as we think of this line, did you check on me? Did you look for me? We'll start to say, hey, who am I checking on? Who am I looking for? Well, let's go on to the application side of it. 3 problems. Here's the first problem that we have. Well, why we find ourselves in this place where we're isolated, why we're not feeling cared for, why we're not that good at caring for others is, I've just put it down, and this is a cop-out, to Western culture. To the culture that we're in. We've got to understand that the culture that we're in affects everything that goes on. And the culture that we're in has such an impact on us, it's unbelievable. And in fact, in his book, Interconnected, Dr. Dan Siegel, who's a clinical professor of psychiatry at the UCLA School of Medicine, he says this. He says, our society emphasizes separation rather than connection, independence rather than interdependence, individuality rather than a shared identity. What he says is ultimately our prevailing cultural emphasis on excessive autonomy and self-reliance has endangered a society rife with disconnection. That the world in which we live today, it values things like convenience rather than connection. That's why so many of us, we can go online and we can order Uber Eats and have food come to our home, so we don't even need to go out and see someone. We can go online and we can do our shopping order and it all gets delivered to our house. Well, how many of us are thinking about Christmas shopping at the moment and we're already just jumping online and searching and buying? We don't even have to go out. We live in a world where we're so disconnected, where we've built houses with barriers so we don't have to see and engage with and interact with our neighbors. Well, we live in a world that's so focused on individuality. You often hear, be who you are, do what's true to you, be yourself. We live in this world that's so focused on individuality. Whereas when you look at other cultures around the world today, and then even when you go back in history a little bit, that identity wasn't just shaped around an individual, but rather around a community of people. So identity wasn't just found in what's true to me, but what's true to us. And it relates more to who we are as a people rather than an individual. Well, what's fascinating about this is a group called the Cigna Group, they did a big survey. And they found that they found 60%, or just under 60% of people are feeling lonely. And then the way to highlight this isn't to ask you to stand if you feel lonely, because that would be awkward. But rather, I want you to do me a favor here, and this is a full participation exercise. Everyone needs to participate in this. And if you're sitting around someone and they don't participate in this, and you know they're not participating in this, you have my permission to slap them around the ears, gently, little bit of sting, okay? But if your surname starts with A to P, can I ask you to stand? Your surname A to P. Okay, now what I want you to do is I want you to have a little look around the room, okay? Because that should be about 60% of the room. They're standing there. That is the amount of people that we engage with that are feeling lonely. Just have a look, whether it's in this room, whether it's in your workplace, whether it's if you look around a bus or a train or wherever it might be, that's the percentage of people that today are feeling lonely. That's crazy, right? That's scary. You feel free to take a seat. In fact, what's even more crazy from this research that they carried out was that young adults, those who know the song, Matt, be careful here, and those in the 18 to 24 age bracket, for the first time in the years that they've been doing this research, they found that the 18 to the 24 age group are feeling more lonely than those in the 65 plus. That's 79%. Get that? 79% of those in the 18 to 24 age bracket are feeling lonely. That's crazy, right? That's so scary. In fact, if you want to look into some of this research, there's a guy called Cal Newport, and he's written some incredible books, and he's got a podcast that does a whole lot of good stuff in this space in particular. But what he does is he actually looks back and he says that in 2012, it was from 2012 we started seeing the trend go like this, just exponentially crazy. And then he says, do you know what happened in the year 2012? And he says that was the year that smartphones hit the 50% threshold of all phones that people are using. And it's just gone higher and higher and higher and higher since then. You draw from that correlation what you want. The US Surgeon General, they've got an advisory committee. I'd hate to know how they produced an 80-page report last year, epidemic of loneliness and isolation. So this would be millions and millions of dollars worth of work gone into this thing. I've just printed off 2 pages, don't need all of it. But just to read you some of his comments. He said just as he began his job, he started doing a tour around the United States. And he said, people began to tell me they felt isolated, invisible, and insignificant. Maybe that's how some people in this room are feeling. According to those stats, there'll be a number of people in this room feeling isolated, invisible, insignificant. Even when they couldn't put their finger on the word lonely, time and time again, people of all ages and socio-economic backgrounds from every corner of the country would tell me, I have to shoulder all of life's burdens by myself. Or if I disappear tomorrow, no one will even notice. In a light bulb moment for me, social disconnection was far more common than I had realized. He goes on to say, loneliness is far more than a bad feeling. It harms both individual and societal health. It's associated with a greater risk of cardiovascular disease, dementia, stroke, depression, anxiety, and premature death. The mortality impact of being socially disconnected is similar to that caused by smoking up to 15 cigarettes a day, and even greater than that associated with obesity and physical inactivity. And the harmful consequences of a society that lacks social connection can be felt in our schools, workplaces, and civic organizations where performance, productivity, and engagement are diminished. And then it goes on later. It says, each of us can start now in our own lives by strengthening our connections and relationships. Our individual relationships are an untapped resource, a source of healing hiding in plain sight. They can help us live healthier, more productive, and more fulfilled lives. Answer that phone call from a friend. Make time to share a meal. Listen without the distraction of your phone. Perform an act of service. Express yourself authentically. The keys to human connection are simple but extraordinarily powerful. Is it a coincidence that we see that throughout the New Testament over and over and over and over and over again? The culture that we are living in is the first really big challenge I think we see in this area. A second big challenge that we have in this area is that we don't let people in. We don't let people in. We like to just put on our masks. We like to pretend everything's good. How you doing? Good. You know, a person comes up, how you doing? Good. Everything's falling apart at home. My marriage's in shambles. I've got a strained relationship with my kids. Good. How you doing? Good. My credit card debt's up to here. Don't know how I'm going to pay the bill this week. Don't know how this is going to work out. Oh, I'm good. I'm good. Oh, I've got exams coming up that I know I'm woefully underprepared for. How you doing? Yeah, good. Yeah, good. We often can go through life and we can just struggle to let people in. And in fact, this song alludes to this so much. It says, people don't really know you. They don't really know you. Nobody will know the paranoia because I put a smile on my face, a facade you can never face. If you don't know me well, you won't see how buried I am inside my grave. Inside my grave. How sad is that? There's people that are feeling like they're inside their grave, but they won't let anyone see them. They won't let anyone in. And again, this has got a bit to do with the culture that we're in, because we often see the best of people's lives on social media, right? And we go on and we see, well, this is happening here, and this is happening here, and this is happening here. And we think everything's going really, really well. And, man, I can't say that because look at that. What will people think of me if I tell them what's really going on? Will they still care for me? And so as people, we just get hard. And we don't let people in. But the problem when we don't let people in, what this song alludes to actually goes right back to week one when we looked at Taylor Swift, and she said, vices and prices that leave us in crisis is what we can turn to when we're on our own, where we just struggle to let people in. The third big challenge is we all have this ability, I think, or this tendency to overestimate our relational networks. Where you overestimate how much people really care for us or are going to be there for us. Or potentially we undervalue our need for them because we live in such an individualistic world. That it's all about me. I've got to carry this weight. If I'm strong enough, I've got to appear to be strong enough. I've got to appear that I'm the one that can do it. And we undervalue our need for relational connections. We overestimate the relational networks. It's always really, really sad and heartbreaking to hear when someone's going through crisis, and then they'll sit down and they'll take, man, we've got this going on. We're like, well, who's around you? Well, this person texts me. I got a phone call from these two people. This person offered to come around and see me. But it all stopped after a week. It all stopped after 2. And it's not because other people are bad. It's because often our tendency as a person is to overestimate the strength of those relational networks that are around us and rely so much on our individual strength. So three big challenges. Our culture. We don't let people in. We overestimate our relational networks. Let's stop talking about the depressing side of this, the heartbreaking side of it. Let's look at some solutions here. What are some solutions? The first one's really, really simple. We've got to start building relationships today. We've got to start building relationships today. Here's an idea I want to lock into you. Your responsibility, I believe, is to be a community cultivator. You are to be a community builder. There's two approaches we can have when it comes to community. The first is I'm going to seek community. I'm going to go looking for it. And if I find something, I'm going to stay there. And then the way it is kind of like this. I look around the room and I want to build some community. So how can I go? I've got to find some community. Oh, here's some nice guys. Oh, Martin Lindsay, these guys are nice guys. I'll come in. They've got a cool little community going. I'll come and be part of their community for a while. And they're nice. They let me into their community. But then one day, Martin actually has to tell me something. My kids are a bit out of control, and I've got to, change my parenting game up a little bit, because if I don't sort my kids out now, I'm going to pay for the price later. I'm like, see you later, man. I don't want to be part of that community. So I go and I'm trying to find some community, and I'm trying to seek some community. Like, here we go. These guys have got some over here, so I'll come in and I'll be part of this community, and I'll spend some time here, and they're really nice. Mary will invite me over and make a nice meal and really, really care for me, and Brian will. Thanks, Mary. And they'll really care and give me heaps of good advice. But then one day Mary says, Clint, stop eating with your mouth open. So I get out of that, and then I come and start hanging out with Jack. And hey, man, then I go, oh man, Jared, he's difficult. Oh, that guy Tyler, flat man, poor Jared. These guys have got so many issues. Oh, boys, see you later. We try and seek community where there's already community. But what if instead of trying to seek community where there's already community, we say, no, my responsibility is to build community. Everywhere I go, I can build community. I can invite people in. I can be making connections. And I know for some of you that are extroverted, that's easy. And for some of you that are introverted, that's more difficult. And I totally get that. But that's no excuse. What if we're called to actually be community builders? I'm not going to try and build community on someone else, but rather I'm going to be a community builder. Whether I'm in my workplace, whether I'm in my sports team, whether I'm on that train every day, wherever I go, man, I'm going to be a community builder. But see, we've got to understand that building relationships is too important for us to be passive about. I'm not going to sit and wait at a table for people to come and sit with me. I'm going to go and build community somewhere. I'm not going to be that person that complains, no one talk to me, because I'm going to be the person that goes and talks to people. We've got to be community builders. We've got to build those relationships today. And this is it. We've got to build them today because we're going to need them tomorrow. And when the crisis comes, there's no time to build the relationships. You need them. We've got to build them. So the second thing, we've got to put on our big boy pants or our big girl pants. We've got to let people in. Some of us, we struggle to let people in because we've been hurt in the past, because we've been betrayed, because we've been rejected, because of the pain that can come with this. But what we've got to do is push past that pain, and we've got to let people in. We've got to put on our big boy pants. We've got to put on our big girl pants. Some of us, we need to actually let people in by telling those that are already around us what's really going on. I was talking with Anna about this during the week, and she gave me this incredible line, which is such a great thought. Is all it takes is 2 seconds of courage. All it takes is 2 seconds of courage. If I've got something to tell you, if I've got something going on in my life, I don't need to have 2 months worth of courage or 2 hours worth of courage to maybe have a 2-hour conversation. I only need 2 seconds of courage to be able to come up to you and say, Mark, this is what's going on in my world. 2 seconds of courage. And now everything's different, right? I only need 2 seconds of courage. Oh, I think this idea that we only need 2 seconds of courage can be so powerful for so many people in this room, because you need 2 seconds of courage. Let's get really real for a moment. One of the things that breaks my heart, and in the role that I do, is oftentimes, if people are in Christ, I say it starts back there, it's when it gets to here that I'll hear about it. That they might come and say something to me. At this point, it's already crazy. Here's an example. You've got a 13-year-old son who's really struggling at school. He made some silly friends that's now getting him into mischief, but it's not that bad, like nothing too bad. He's only 13 years old. Okay, I don't tell anyone about it. Everything's good. Things keep happening. Your 13-year-old now is almost 14. He starts staying out really, really late at night. He's not coming home. You've got no idea what he's doing. He's disregarding your rules. You're like, you're pulling your hair out. How's everything? Good. Okay, then all of a sudden, they're 15 years old, and all of a sudden you find a tinny in their bedroom drawer, and you're freaking out. What's going on? How are you? Good. Then your 16-year-old kid gets expelled from school, and everyone hears about it because it's public knowledge. How are you? Do you know what I mean? And it's only here that you're asking for care and support when you could have got it right back there. Another example. Work's looking at making some redundancies. I don't know what this is going to mean for my job. How's everything? Good. I'm made redundant. How's everything? Good. Haven't been able to find a new job as quick as I thought I would. Starting to eat into my savings. How's everything? Good. I've now maxed out my credit cards and borrowed some money from my mum. How's everything? Good. I've now had letters saying that I'm going to be made bankrupt. Can I tell you something? You needed people back here. There's not much we can do here. Do you understand this? Do you get the significance of this? We've got relational problems. We don't know how to deal with conflict. Help. It's heartbreaking. It's devastating. It's like, man, I wish there's anything we could do to rewind back the clock. Bring you back here. We need to be authentic. My son's out of control. I don't know what to do. Something's going on big at work, and I'm hoping it's not going to affect me, but maybe it would. But man, I'm really worried about it. I'm not sure what it's going to mean for next steps. My wife keeps telling me I'm not listening. I don't know what she's saying. That's the conversations we need to be having. 2 seconds of courage. We've got to let people in. If we're gonna fight back, what do we got to do? Thirdly, we've got to embrace a countercultural lifestyle. We've got to embrace a countercultural lifestyle. Here's the idea. If we want what most people are getting, we should do what most people are doing. If we want what few people have got, we've got to be willing to do what few people are doing. If we want to likely find ourselves lonely, disconnected, in a place where we're saying, there's no one checking on me, there was no one caring for me, we can just keep going through our life doing what everyone else is doing. But if we want to get to a place where we can be in that place where like, man, I am felt cared for. There's people around me that know what's going on. We've got to be willing to do what few people are doing so we can achieve and see what few people are achieving and few people are seeing. We've got to be willing to do it. We've got to be willing to embrace a countercultural lifestyle. And that's not easy. Because when you take on a countercultural lifestyle, there's going to be a whole lot of other people that are going to be looking at you and they're going to be saying, hey, well, why have they always got people over at their house? Well, why do they always ask the follow-up question rather than just a basic question? Well, why do they actually share more And when that happens, it can be really hard to go back to the level and to be sucked back to what's normal. But what we really have to understand is if we want what few people have got, we've got to be willing to do what few people will do. We've got to be okay with living a counter-cultural lifestyle. Let me wrap this up by just asking you to dream there for a moment. Just imagine with me for a moment what a group of us could do. If we say, no, we're going to embrace this countercultural way of loving one another. We're not going to be so individualistic. We're not going to be independent. We're going to be interdependent. Well, what if we push back against the hurry of society, the time pressures of society, and we actually focus on what the title of the song's called? People. What if I had stopped asking the question, who cares for me, and I start asking myself, who am I caring for? What if we took these one another's that a number of us know so well, but can be summed up by love one another, care for one another, in case you don't know them well. Well, what if we took that super seriously? What if we took the teachings of Jesus and the teaching of the New Testament like seriously? And I know my job is to help everyone take that. That's like literally my job, to help you take those teachings seriously. Okay? And we all have that tendency sometimes, I want to take that real seriously. Oh, that sounds nice, but I'm too busy. Oh, that sounds nice, but it's going to cost me too much. What if we actually all took those one another's like seriously? Like, I'm actually going to encourage you. I'm actually going to care for you. I'm actually going to carry your burdens. I'm actually going to celebrate when you celebrate and be sad with you when you're sad. What if we really did that? Imagine how that would look to those on the outside. Would that not be incredibly compelling? Would that not be incredibly appealing for other people to look on and go like, oh, man, Josh, I don't know if I can believe what you believe. Like, man, I don't know that Jesus actually came to earth. I don't believe that he's actually like a historical figure that died on a cross. I thought he was just a cuss word that we say from time to time. And I don't know if I can believe what you believe, but man, I want the support that you've got. I want a community around me like you've got around you. I say, man, I can't believe all the stuff about a Virgin Mary giving birth to the Son of God. But man, those people, they know how to care for each other. Man, those people, they really genuinely know how to love one another. And when someone's going through something, there's people that are there, and there's people that are there, and there's people that are there. And then that gets shared to the next person, to the next person, and it's unbelievable. Don't you think a community like that would be incredible to be a part of? Don't you think a community like that would have a far-reaching impact into a society that's struggling with loneliness and disconnection? Isn't it insane that when Jesus was with his disciples and he said to them, this is how people will know that you are my disciples. This is how people will know that you're followers of mine. Because of the way that you love one another. That's our opportunity to be that community. Let me pray. Yeah, Heavenly Father, we can't say you didn't make it clear. It's so clear. But Father, for some reason, man, we struggle to apply this with life going on around us. I pray, Father, that you help all of us to lift people to be our number one priority, because they are your number one priority. Out of everything on this planet, Lord, it's only people that are going to go and live on for eternity. Everything else is going to fade away. And so, Father, I ask that in a way that only you can take what we've been talking about today and deposit it into people's heads and into the depths of their hearts in a way that they can't ignore, that they can't push back on, that they can't just dispel or dismiss. But rather, you'll help us to fully embrace your teachings, to outwork these one another's that you've called us to, and to be comfortable doing it in a countercultural way so that we can stand out from what everyone else is doing. And we can receive the benefits that very few people are seeing because we're willing to do what very few people are doing. Amen.